Once again, I'm live and I'm coming with another show tonight. Um, it's kind of interesting when they put you on the shelf for about 4 months, right? And then you're able to, get it together. Like I said, okay. So I reached out to Judge Joe Brown. I said, Judge, I kind of need you to come on, man. There's been so many things going on. And just a lot going on. We got rumors of war. We got um, we got the Trump thing going on. We got the Biden thing going on, which I need to break them down more. Things about Wesley Snipes and more like that. A lot of stuff going on in this picture. So I have to really break all that stuff down. What's going on, Doc Boss? A lot of stuff going on in the world, brother. They say up there in New York it's gonna be more wildfires. How do they know it's gonna be more wildfires, brother? How do they know that? They know that because I don't think it's a wildfire. I think they're just shooting a direct energy weapon and putting a laser down there. That's how I look at it. Time will tell, though. We're gonna find that out. We're really gonna find that out. That's gonna be really something to behold right there. Hold on. That's gonna be something to behold right there. So we're gonna have to know what's going on with those situations. Shoot, it just doesn't make a lot of sense that we don't really know what's up. But we heard about a second whistleblower today, so forth. So that's another interesting thing. A lot of things are going on that you just didn't think that would be going on. And of course, probably a good 45% of the American public is still. I heard they blowing up tunnels too, brother. That's a good thing. Also, I heard the military is in 15 states. But of course, a lot. I would say 45% of the American public is still probably oblivious to what's going on. If that's something I can say. So that's something I could really say that's going on. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. But so when you have all these issues going on, we just have to really kind of put it all together. I'm gonna play a clip of that Biden thing though. And I want people to hear this because he said this in a meeting with what's his name, Modi. Yeah, Joe Biden. Okay. Yeah. So he has to be kind of more so into this thing. But on the Copyright Act of the 1976, this is made for purposes as education, news reporting, comments, and teaching. This is no right by means right to infringe. What's up, man? How you doing? All right, let's bring this up, man.
I was just thinking, anyway, I started off without you. And I sold a lot of state secrets and a lot of very important things that we shared. I was just thinking.
You say he sold a lot of state secrets. What does that tell you? that tell you a lot right there, don't it? Fair use of use permitted by copyright statute might otherwise be infringed in non-profit, educational, or personal use tips to balance in favor of their use. All right, well, that's good. I'm glad. Thank you, man, for putting it up there again, brother. All right. So, the man say he stole a lot of state secrets. Not that we didn't know this anyway. I mean, not something that we didn't know. It just makes more sense now that they're going to be telling us. I guess they're going to start telling us everything. They're going to start telling us that pigs flying next and everything else is going on next, right? I mean, I'm just looking at the way I'm looking at it, they're telling us everything going on. We might learn something else. Something else big going on, too. I didn't even get to this. I'm going to play it now.
I said I see it, and I like it, and I want it. Yes, I do. I need it to make me happy. Oh, baby, yes, I do mean you.
We do begin tonight with this travel chaos, severe storms.
Oh, yeah, it's all for sale, brother.
Delaying and canceling thousands of flights across this country. New storms coming tonight. And the 4th of July crush of travelers hasn't even started yet. We are tracking these new storms in the hours ahead along the I-95 corridor in the east, Washington to Philadelphia, New York to Boston. And these are the images already from airports, monitors showing canceled flights. Some passengers told they've been booked on a new flight 6 days from now. Extremely long lines to get through the TSA security check at Newark Airport. At New York's JFK tonight, irate passengers at an American Airlines counter after flight delays of more than 16 hours. New storms, as I mentioned, and a flood watch in parts of the Northeast threatening more trouble in the hours ahead after this lightning storm just outside Philadelphia today. And then the new warning late today on air quality, smoke from those Canadian wildfires coming back again. Already in Chicago, parts of New York now warned about tomorrow. We're tracking it all tonight, beginning with ABC's Stephanie Ramos at Newark Airport for us.
Tonight, multiple ground stops at Northeast airports. Thunderstorms threatening to snarl travel after days of bad weather caused a cascade of cancellations. Frustration boiling over in Newark. Desperate parents in Boston.
And we're trying to just get home to our baby.
More than 1,400 flights canceled Sunday, 2,200 on Monday. Already more than 1,600 canceled today. Newark Airport hit the hardest. William Lugo and his family stuck there, trying to get to Fort Lauderdale.
Now they're getting us a flight for the 2nd of July. Because I can't wait until July the 2nd. I mean, yes. It's like 7 days, 6 days from now. It's ridiculous.
Ripple effects felt as far away as Denver, where stranded families slept on cots overnight. While the FAA is blaming the storms in the Northeast, the CEO of United Airlines is blaming the FAA and staffing shortages. Scott Kirby writing the storms were, quote, something that the FAA has historically been able to manage, and that by slowing down departure and arrival rates over the weekend, the FAA frankly failed us. The FAA in a statement saying, we will always collaborate with anyone seriously willing to join us to solve a problem.
The challenges that the FAA has, not just with staffing, but its technology systems are well known. They're real. The FAA is trying to address this. They can't snap their fingers and create new air traffic controllers. It's just not that easy.
And David, because flights are more full now compared to before the pandemic, it's even harder to rebook. The TSA is expecting record travel volumes this week. The busiest day for air travel is likely Friday, and they expect to screen nearly 2.9 million travelers. David.
Yes, a potential record-setting holiday ahead. Stephanie, thank you. As you heard Stephanie mention there, all of this before the July 4th crush of travelers expected to set those records, and all amid new warnings tonight about air quality as well. The smoke from the Canadian wildfires returning. Chicago already seeing it. Parts of New York now being warned about what's coming tomorrow and in the days ahead. Let's get right to our New York meteorologist, Lee Goldberg, from our station WABC, tracking it all as always. But firstly, I wanted to get to these severe storms on tap here in the Northeast and the Midwest tonight that could, of course, cause even more travel headaches here.
No question about it. It's air you can wear in the Northeast. It's air you don't want to breathe in the Midwest. But let's go to the flooding downpours that are working through New Jersey. Areas that got 3 to 6 inches of rain yesterday, the heaviest over the next couple of hours. Flood watches are out from New Jersey into parts of southeastern New York and into New England as well. And then we have the severe weather across the Central Plains, lower Mississippi Valley. Gusts could go to 80 miles an hour. There are already watches up, large hail possible as well. And then the intense heat. It's week 3 in Texas, and now it's expanding to New Mexico to the west, to Florida to the east. It peaks Wednesday and Thursday. There's really not a break, maybe early next week for some relief. David?
Yeah, triple-digit temperatures in the heat index. In the meantime, Lee, those air quality concerns tonight, already seeing the smoke from the Canadian wildfires again. This is from the Chicago area already tonight. Chicago's famous skyline covered in haze from the fires. And Lee, now New York's governor warning it's coming to parts of New York State as well.
So some of the poorest air quality in the world over the Midwest right now, it really expands toward D.C. first, and then some of it across western and central New York State into the New York City area late week, but not to the levels we saw early in the season. So, David, I would say it's more moderate air quality, bordering on unhealthy for sensitive groups, but not the most dangerous situation. David?
All right. Lee Goldberg with us tonight from WABC. Lee, thanks as always.
If you believe that, I mean, if you believe that, that's on you. But I mean, I'm kind of like, whatever, man. You know, it's a bunch of nonsense. Poor air quality. Other countries got more poor air quality than here. So what are they talking about? China air quality worse. So they can say all that they want. I mean, it's a bunch of nonsense. I mean, to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Made you look again, didn't they? As they say, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. And fool me third time, I'm just a damn fool. But it is what it is, man. I'm not mad. It's just that people don't understand what's going on. So I don't understand what all this is. It's more like, or maybe I should overstand. I do understand it, but I think that people are not using their collective mind to realize what's going on. So that's what it is. But if you're talking about fires or something, I mean, is it all over the state of New York, or is it just in New York City? Because if it's just in the state of New York City, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, it just means that there's somebody doing that. Because it's not in Staten Island, and it's not in, Maine and so forth and the like, then you got some funny business going on. So we don't know. But we have to be more prepared, I would say. If you want to use the word prepared. Because a lot of it's not making any sense. Yes, Darius, you're right. They're playing the blame game. It ain't because of no daggone win pattern. You know that. I mean, you know what? Yeah, well, I'm glad you don't watch that nonsense. But hey, man, look, man. Hey, it's called comic relief, man. I mean, if I could see y'all hands, by a show of hands, who watched the BET Awards the other night? I didn't. I'm sure Doc Boss didn't. I'm sure Darius, Steve, I don't know. You probably didn't watch it either, right? So daggone shit, Tyler Perry, they ain't trying to give him Paramount Studios. So what's the problem? I tell you, being gay and black don't pay. But they're not trying to give him. He's trying to buy BET or something like that. And Paramount don't want it, you know. Okay. Just to see what lies. Now wait a minute. You watching the news? Well, oh, you talking about the news? I got you. I thought you talking about BET. There you go. That was just a sideshow. Okay, haven't watched BET Awards in years. Okay. Well, people told me about it. Busta Rhymes got the Lifetime Achievement Award. I think Lotto got Best Female Hip Hop Artist or something. Like, man, it is interesting, right? It's just interesting that they want to do this time. I guess they're trying to show us something. But I'm not into this movement they got going on. So there's a lot of things going on that front with BET Awards, and that was a distraction. Then Obama came on the news, and he talks about the daggone. He don't like the coverage that the ship got, 24/7 coverage when you had migrants down the ocean. I find that mighty peculiar, because where was the migrants going? That's what you need to be asking. Where were they going? Not about the ship. Were they heading to another place, Greece? I mean, they were in Greece, right? So were they coming to, America? Were they going to Mexico? And what were they doing? Where were they going? I'm just asking. These are questions that should be asked when you hear about a ship with that many people sinking. That's a question I would be asking. But let me pull that up too. While I'm thinking about it, I need to pull this up. It's the new game they playing on us. Now they let's check this out. Pull this up. Another thing, just for people in the back to learn. What's going on, man? How you doing?
All right, young man.
How you been doing, Judge?
I'll manage, at least in a mad rush.
I understand. I know you told me to be an hour, so I'm gonna keep it sweet to the point. But how things going for Mayor, first of all, since you're on here?
Okay, it's going okay. We're progressing. We're on the schedule. The usual mainstream media problems, they try to black out the candidacy like it doesn't exist. So I don't know what they think they're going to do, but they're not going to do it. So we'll get there. The people love us. And the whole thing is a vote for me is a vote for yourself. Let's take back the town. It's time the people owned it.
Well, I'm glad you talk about voting and so forth. And like, there was a decision by the Supreme Court today that says the states cannot have the sole power of state legislatures cannot control elections themselves. That was a 6-3 decision that came up today.
I haven't read it.
Okay, when we read it, we're gonna talk about it and get more in detail to it. Okay. Now, this thing going on, a second whistleblower came out there on the Hunter Biden story. That was Joe Biden and Hunter Biden thing. They had a dinner the other night where Joe Biden actually said that he sold state secrets. He was talking to the Indian president. He said it right on.
Yeah, well, irrespective, I got to read the laptops. There are 3 of them.
Oh, yeah.
So I saw what was on them.
Well, but Judge, let me bring this up. 3 years ago, I was showing you that Chinese website called gnews.org, and we saw all the emails. We saw the pictures of him and Obama in the office. We saw the pictures of Hunter Biden with the Chinese guy. We saw all these years ago.
We're talking about let me get this straight. I get 10%, Joe gets 10, Hunter gets for 10. Yeah, $100 million. Yeah.
Okay, right. So this is not new information. They're bringing it up, but then all of a sudden, last week they said, "Well, let's just give you a little plea deal, tax. Let's wipe this away." And he owed $1 million in taxes.
That was what they really see. That's disconnected. That's other stuff. He didn't pay taxes on what he got.
Yeah, I know.
Technically, you are chargeable with taxes even if you steal the money. You go commit a bank robbery and the IRS wants taxes on what you got, even though it's stolen money. He'll go after somebody if they really want them badly. Armed robbery and past due taxes on the proceeds for the armed robbery. So there's a lot more to it. The question is, what does somebody recently discharged from the U.S. military for being a crack addict have to offer a business? Answer, only one thing: access to daddy, Vice President of the U.S. So it's interesting. You can even extrapolate what's going on with Ukraine. Are we there for a viable purpose for the U.S.? Well, Russia is putting it out, but we don't get the chance to see that. What they're doing is resisting a resurgence of Nazism. It seems that when the Soviets retook Ukraine, which was a big part of their republic at the time, Stalin just told everybody to get off. They weren't sending people to the Nuremberg proceedings. And nobody ever did anything about them. And Nazism is resurgent these days. It's rampant. A lot of those people you see bouncing around in the White House and over being lauded by the U.S. Department of State. If you looked at pictures of them some years back when they had on the wife beaters or whatever, you'll see a whole lot of Nazi paraphernalia and swastikas tattooed on them. Now, the other point that gets into this is, are we there for a viable purpose? Or are we there so Biden can bribe his way out of a multi-count organized crime indictment that's already been released, and under Article 6 of the Constitution, ratified treaties are part of the supreme law of the land along with the Constitution. And what do we have? 1999. President Bill Clinton introduces a treaty he had negotiated with Ukraine to the Senate, and it was ratified. And it says the U.S. and Ukraine agreed to apprehend, detain, and extradite criminal elements wanted by the other signatory to the agreement, which was Ukraine and the United States. So technically, we're supposed to take him into custody and extradite him to Ukraine, which isn't likely to happen right now because of state secrets and that. But after he's out of office, well, while we whoopee, they get him. But if they drop the indictment, then that doesn't happen. So I imagine that he wants to get the indictment dropped. Now, if you heard him, and I think it was either 2017 or 2018, when he was on a C-SPAN conference, he was sitting at the conference table. They were up on stage, and he says, I guess I'm guilty of bribery because I told them they weren't going to get to $14 billion in loan guarantees if they didn't remove that guy who was trying to get my son and him too. So he says, I guess I'm guilty of bribery and extortion. He said it out of his own mouth at least twice. So yeah, it is, if you take it for what it's worth. So let's see what happens out of that. But it's a shame that we were over there for that. And also, one other thing, too, that Putin is putting out, which is cute. Some years ago, the Russians reinforced their dedication to the concept of masculinity and manhood while we did what we did. January 2 years ago, the Chinese did the same thing, too, while we did what we did. And one of the things that Putin is putting out that Russia is doing is stopping the spread of emasculinity through the Ukraine that the United States is trying to foster on the world. So, while we whoopee.
So what do you think about the just using this? I mean, but don't you find it funny that you going back to Hunter Biden, just circling back for a quick second by him? Don't you think it's kind of funny that he gets off for this representation? Wesley Snipes, Kodak Black, and all these other people were saying that
He
they
hadn't
didn't
gotten off yet. See, the bottom line is now you got another scandal. You see articles of impeachment are being discussed.
Yep.
Against Garrick because he blocked a U.S. attorney from proceeding to get indictments. Favoritism, what was it? I was told I could not get these outside of Delaware. Now, here's another thing, too, that is a danger with the way the federal system is being run right now. Here's one guy. Now, we're going, wow, 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 wow. He's going after Biden. Turnaround is fair play. Yeah, but you got Bragg, who is on a state level, and then you've got this thing down in Georgia where they're going after Trump. And one of the problems is we've got 50 states in this union. And you have a situation now where the U.S. attorney can go after somebody like a president, either Biden or Trump, and he might represent a very minor federal district circuit, rather, in the country, anywhere in the country. And what they were discussing is being able to go outside of Delaware and say, go to New York or someplace else or more favorable after forum shopping. And the U.S. attorney who's assigned to the circuit that involves Delaware go somewhere else and get the indictment. That's, since you brought up Wesley Snipes, he wound up getting convicted of 3 lesser included counts of failure to file the complete set of returns. And IRS had a refund check for $250,000 because he had actually overpaid his taxes. I was there and I witnessed this. I was a character witness who actually took the stand and testified for him. So there are all kinds of abuses that have been set up, and to a great extent, it's turnaround time because Joe Biden, Eastland, Stennis, Byrd, and that ilk set these things in play 40 some years ago when they got some changes made in the federal criminal procedures that apply to criminal matters. And essentially, they allow a U.S. attorney in his discretion to persecute. I didn't say prosecute, I said persecute. In other words, to know that you have a weak case, but proceed anyway, not for the purpose of securing a remote conviction, but for bankrupting or making a target financially unable to operate without undue difficulty or drive the person into bankruptcy. So American law was not intended to allow someone to have that discretion so that, okay, we can't convict him, we can't get a case beyond a reasonable doubt, but let's bankrupt him and we can take care of him that way. We can neutralize him and make him harmless. That's not right.
Well, the thing with Mr. Trump, and we read, Judge, we read a lot, we went over the Presidential Record Act and things like that. He does have the ability to declassify anything he wants. I mean, that's pretty much the game.
Those are the concurring opinions in United States Department of the Navy versus Egan, EGAN, 1988 U.S. Supreme Court. At one time, you could pretty much pick up the concurring opinions, but now they just have the main opinion, and it doesn't mention these things, but the concurring opinions were pretty clear that the president can declassify anything he wants in any form, shape, or fashion he chooses, or he can classify something. He can declassify in part or classify in part. He is commander in chief, so therefore he can override the armed services, and he's chief diplomat, and he can therefore override the Department of State. The Secretary of State is an adjunct to his authority and administration, and so is the Secretary of Defense. That's interesting. The Vice President has no such constitutional authority. So whereas Biden has supposedly decided to, oh, I have these things and I didn't mislead anybody, so I haven't done anything crap. He had no authority to remove them from the White House. Now, here's the other thing that most of the media is totally ignoring. The specified purpose for the preparation of these documents, hell, in fact, the purpose for the NSA and the CIA is interesting. The charters for both specifically designate that their purpose is to digest intelligence information to present to the president. Now, Bill Clinton had an eidetic memory, and Trump seems to have as well. I have one, and if I read it, I don't forget it. So if he read it, it's in his head, it really doesn't make any difference if the documents are in his physical possession or not. But bottom line is, they're in Mar-a-Lago, or were, and Secret Service is charged with guarding Mar-a-Lago as they were guarding the White House. So they're under the same aegis of security. Matters not. Well, he didn't tell the archivist what he had omitted or not. Well, he still has a fiduciary responsibility once he takes these documents into his custody to exercise a form of partial declassification, as it were. He can say, well, since they're in my custody and control and prepared for me, well, I didn't publish what I was doing in my declassification, but they'll find out that what I had in my head, which is what counts, is I did not intend to publish what's in here to the likes of the archivist, because we don't know if they have the requisite security clearances. So that would not be cool for the countries.
Well, let me ask you,
security.
well, let me ask you something else, because I wanted to bring it up. Like I said, they had me on ban for like 4 months or something like that, right? But let's bring this up. So last week the Human Rights Campaign had posted a thing. We are combining Juneteenth and the intersectionality and the LGBTQ movement together, and blah blah blah. Now, as you know, and I'm gonna play the video for you in a minute. This transgender movement is really coming on. It's going in the state legislatures. They're fighting back. They're saying you have to disclose this information and so forth and the like. Judge, it's almost like you said. They're showing you this is the new religion in the cult, like you said, isn't it, Judge?
Mm-hmm.
They're showing their colors now.
Yeah, in other words, you can't have a Christian cross under a flag. You can't have the Jewish star under the flag. You can't have the Islamic crescent under the flag. You can't have the Hindu multi-armed god, one of them. They have several. You can't have an image of Buddha, who was a real live prince who simply renounced his royalty to do good works. And by the way, Buddhism is exactly a parallel in one sense, because it does not have a deity, nor does the rainbow stuff. So you have a secular set of principles and philosophy that functions in effect as a quasi-religious code, just like Buddhism. So here we go, rainbow under the American flag. Now, I'm not down in gay folk. They have an absolute right to do what they want to do in their bedrooms. They can advocate as they wish. They can proselytize as they wish. But we also have the same right to push back and say, no, we don't approve of it, and this is why. So everybody's got their First Amendment rights. But those First Amendment rights are one thing, because constitutionally, you're not supposed to impose a state religion. No how, no way. And just like you can't have a nativity scene, you're not supposed to have a rainbow sidewalk or a crosswalk at public expense in public places.
Yep, that's right.
So why does one get away with it and not the other? And then the other thing is this is the interesting thing. What this whole uproar is about is human sexuality. It's not about political orientation. It's not about your genetics. It's not about your culture or your ethnicity. It's about your choice of sexuality. Not your choice of sexuality that you're born with, the one you choose. And it's choice, because unless every time somebody has that kind of sex, it's a matter of rape, it's somebody offering and somebody accepting it, or somebody not offering, or somebody not accepting, or no means no. So it's all option, it's all choice. Now, your inclination is a different thing, but that's just like somebody who's a rape defendant saying, I'm extremely lusty and I was compelled, therefore, while we whoopee, I had to rape the woman. See, that doesn't pan out. Now, control yourself. That's what we say these days. In other words, you can't just let yourself go crazy and I'm horny, so I get what I want. And the bottom line is it's a bunch of faux science, a lot of ignorance, and a lot of just selfish imposition that's in place here. Charlize Theron says it. He wanted to be a girl. He said he wanted to be a girl, so I was not going to stand in his way. Well, see, that's supreme ignorance, because the way children work when they're humans is they test things. They don't get into fine, nuanced philosophical discourse on a subject. They say, let me see what happens. Mom puts these shoes on. Should I put these high heels on? And if the child puts high heels on and somebody says, oh, no, you're a boy, you're going to be a man, you don't wear those. And he says, oh, okay, I'm not supposed to wear them. And that's it. But you get somebody like Theron and they go, oh, baby, you want to wear high heels? Mommy will let you wear high heels. And meanwhile, he'll let me show you how to put on makeup. So the kid says, okay, I guess I'm supposed to wear high heels and wear makeup. That's cool. That's what I'll do. See, they're learning. And the way they learn is by trial proposition. How about this? They'll throw something out there and see what reaction do they get. If it's negative, oops, I guess I don't do that. Well, I guess they like that, so I guess that's what I ought to do. So when they do this,
what about Bud Light?
Yeah, well, I don't even want to talk about Bud Light. It was like, you have a product line that has a very high percentage, the majority of the American beer market, and 80+% of your consumers are male, and you turn around and insult them by putting some little freak out there in blue panties to match the can and put him in a bubble bath, and he's blowing and he's celebrating what his 365th day first full year in transition. Transition to what? He can't get pregnant. He can't breastfeed a child. He doesn't have the smell, the hormones to deal with having 1 through 7 year olds naturally respond to him, or, well, yeah, him. He's not a she, more so than to the male parent. So it's just all fake. He's delusional. And plus, it's a cop out. When you do that, you just abdicate your responsibilities as a man to do such things as, well, watch your fellow hunters back when you are out with long poles with rocks on the end trying to take down a 2-ton something that you want to barbecue. And he's not standing on the walls, and when the Titanic goes down, he's going, oh, I want my seat in the lifeboat, instead of saying, ma'am, you and your child have my seat, I'll drown with the ship. Well, I mean, everybody has their rights, but some things are not good for the many, and the insistence on exercising a right that one should withhold, such as free speech and cussing, when there are a lot of respectable women around or children around, you see, that becomes license and it's not appropriate. But some people don't care because they're too selfish. And just think about something. You hate yourself so badly that you would mutilate what you are so you could become your fantasy, which is unreal because you can't really be that anyway. And then the
I just want to share.
spread to some states where they want to discipline teachers because they won't use a child's chosen pronoun, a child who doesn't even know the English language well then, and they want to be they rather than he, she, or it. And instead of saying he is, she is, it is, you go, they is, we is. That's bad English. So unless some fool has a penchant for tattooing the special pronoun they convince their child they ought to exercise on their forehead so somebody can read it, nobody has to memorize all that nonsense. That's not required. That's ridiculous. You are either a he, she, and it, or it. Now,
Well, let me ask you. Let me say something, Jerry.
you got balls, you're a he, and if you ain't got balls, you may be a she. And if you can't make up your mind, then you are an it. And I don't care, because they corrupt the mating game. They send signals that are associated with the opposite sex. So the young people, instead of engaging in the time-honored traditional sports of either girl watching or boy watching, they don't watch because they don't know what they're looking at, because something's faking the signals. That's counterproductive, and that's not matching the sociological, cultural, adaptive human mating ritual signals and games. And see, the other thing too is male humans and female humans look distinctly different when they're naked, but because of our lack of a full coat of body hair, the only time people get naked is at beaches and resorts and stuff like that. So the cultural tradition has been the clothes reflect what's underneath. So when somebody's cross-dressing and he's not sneaking around skulking, not being obvious, somebody looks, oh man, what a fine woman. Oh, no, that's not a woman, is it? And the girls go, oh, hey, look at the boy. Oh, well, is that a boy or what is that? And then you get into that, going off into boys who are failures as athletes, putting on bras and wanting to physically beat up on the girls in girls' sports, which is not cool. And then back to the other bloody doggone thing, the pedophiles. I assume that a lot of gay folk remember when they got turned out by some pedophiles. So why the devil is someone supposed to be unified and collaborating when someone is pressing a point or practice that harm them greatly? I mean, what time is it? You want somebody to go say, okay, that messed me up, so now I want to support them? Or somebody saying, hey, keep your hands off the kids. I don't care whether you're straight or gay. You have no business trying to sexualize children. And somewhere in there, we need to return to sanity from somebody's unfounded wish list, which is at this point strictly experimental, because there are no people 60, 70, 80 years old who have been raised this way, and we don't know how it works. It's probably going to prove itself to be an abject failure, because I'm looking at what some people right now say, oh, it's working. I said, no, that's not working. And see, to show you what it is, let's just take concept of gay. A lot of gay folk despise LGBTQ and they think it's a cult, which it is. But let's take two notorious folk that would fit in that category: Alexander the Great and Julius Caesar. Hail Caesar. You know, and Caesar practiced homosexuality. He was open about it, but he was quite masculine otherwise. Alexander the Great practiced it, but he was a real live badass on the battlefield and conquered the known world. But you get these little flamers going around tripping and flipping, and their thing is not just homosexuality. Their thing is negation of masculinity. It's really kind of weird, but anyway, it is what it is. So everybody's got their rights in this system, but we don't have to approve them. We can speak against them like they speak against us. How often do you read it freely said that men are toxic, or toxic masculinity, or what's wrong with us? If we can be talked about, why can't they?
Let me ask you a question.
False.
What do you think about this video? I want to ask you thoughts on the video. This was very disturbing, and we have to be careful when we hear things like this. I want you to hear this, Judge.
A South Boston apartment where 4 children were allegedly found yelling for help. First responders were called to the building on Old Colony Avenue for a report of a man not breathing. Tonight, what they discovered has a city councilor demanding answers. Boston 25 News reporter Katie Brace is live in Southie tonight with the details. Katie?
Well, the city councilor says what was found in an apartment in that building has been described to her as a house of horrors with children inside. She is calling for the Boston Housing Authority to answer questions about how this happened in publicly funded housing. First responders were called to the Mary Ellen McCormick Housing Authority for a person not breathing. That's not all they found when they entered a top floor apartment.
A lot of drug paraphernalia and sex toys all around. And then one of the firefighters said that they heard a cry for help, that there were 4 children in the back room. And I'm hearing that the adults in the apartment were not wanting first responders to go back when they heard kids crying out for help. So that's very disturbing to me.
According to the police report, the call came in shortly after 11 Saturday morning. Boston Fire and EMS arrived first, followed by police. They found an adult dead. Boston 25 source provided the fire department report, and it matches up with another source's information. According to the fire department report that I reviewed, firefighters found 6 adults who appeared to be males in the apartment with 4 kids in the back bedroom. One of the men tried to stop first responders from going into the room where they found the children, who are ages 5 to 10. The report says the adults were uncooperative and denied having children inside the apartment.
Still trying to piece it all together.
It is unclear the relationship between the 4 children and the adults. The fire and police departments both filed reports with the Department of Children and Families. Police officers cited the conditions of the home. The Department of Children and Families, in a statement to Boston 25, says it has taken custody of the children who live in the home. Neighbors knew the apartment and that something happened over the weekend, but didn't want to talk about it. of charges in this case, the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office says in a statement to Boston 25, we're aware of the incident and the investigation and will appropriately prosecute any arrests that result. At this moment, no charges have been issued.
At the end of the day, my biggest concern is what were the children exposed to and were they hurt in any way? And
All right, Judge. Really, what happened? There was a transgender person that was found dead in that apartment, and actually, there was kids in there with transgender males.
Notice how they avoid it.
That's
like
what
in Tennessee, somebody went freak and shot up a private school, killed 3 children, 3 adults. And apparently he was mad because the private school had encouraged him to go mentally ill and try to convert himself, but he wanted to go back. So he took it out on him. And
but you see how they weasel around that? They don't want to tell you.
They don't get it.
That's what I'm saying. They didn't want to tell you, but they told you it was 6 adult males.
It doesn't work. Don't work no how, no way. Yeah. It's their choice, but
to me,
it's poor choice. And now you want to take children who haven't even got their first erection or wet, and you're going to tell them what they want.
This is a serious crime here, Judge, isn't it?
They can cut their balls off or get that started or get sewn up and get a foam implant, what the devil.
So to me, this is a serious crime, wouldn't you think? You don't want to let the responders come. You got children trapped with drug paraphernalia, sex toys and stuff.
Well,
it's serious.
Yes, it looks that way. So let's see what the prosecutorial authorities do in that area. Do they do their job or want to be politically correct?
Well, let me.
Meanwhile, news media, are you neutral about this? Objective? I mean, if you're saying this,
you said something.
Let's see if it works.
I got 2 topics.
Fails, report the failures, as well as try to claim the successes. So let's see.
Well, I got 2 topics to bring up, and before I let you go, I got to bring this up. One, they were talking about the submarine, but then they had Obama come and say that he was disappointed in 27 coverage on a submarine when you had a ship of migrants with 700 people that sunk in the Greek ocean, in an ocean in Greece, and he said he's tired of. He said media, they need to stop doing biased news information. I'm like, well, but Mr. Obama,
you got a lot of benefit from that, dude. What are you talking about?
Huh?
And by the way, exactly what's newsworthy. The Sea's been claiming people for as long as people have tried to go upon the seas. So one type of thing is routine. The other one is particularly interesting. In other words, a micro sub that is going to be a deep diving device that is very mobile. That's new technology. That's a new adventure. But people died. I mean, now the United States defense posture is to a great extent based on its nuclear submarine fleet. But we've had disasters with those submarines from day one, and the technology has matured a great deal, so those disasters are nowhere near as frequent as they used to be, but we've had the problems.
But what's his angle though? Because he's for censorship now, so what's his angle? Because he is
bullshit artist. He's a bullshit artist
because he's trying to jump from the story. When he jumps in the story, I always pay attention.
He's a bullshit artist.
Okay.
That's his claim to fame. He apparently was pretty good at it.
He talked about the Trump indictment. He said nobody's above the law and all this other stuff. I said, okay,
I know. Well, how about his buddy Joe Biden? And by the way, based on what we were looking at, remember somebody sitting on the front edge of the desk with arms crossed talking treason to the Chinese representative about him getting 10% of $100 million cash put up so the Navy could be called off of aggressive counter patrolling in the South China Sea. And I went and did a little homework. Not long after that, the next active edition of Military Times, the naval section, the admirals were complaining about they had been called off of aggressive counter patrolling in the South China Sea. How about what the Obama administration put in place, neglect of the naval training. So you've had a whole swath of avoidable accidents by sleep deprived sailors and officers, and also undertrained sailors and officers. So they are stretching everything too thin. They took one of the nuclear carriers out of the area, sent it down very ill-advisedly to the Middle East to try and make up for the lack of boots on the ground, since they were getting withdrawn from Afghanistan, and try to make up with that with sea power that they ineptly handled. And now we got a real live mess. Plus, we've got the Jerry Ford, which is the latest nuclear carrier, and it doesn't really work because they did not perfect the technology, and a lot of systems are down. And it was supposed to have been operational a half decade ago, which it was not because of the flaws. So now we got a mess. We are short. We're down money.
I'm pulling it up right now,
A whole
Judge.
bunch
Wait
of
a
stuff
minute.
is gone.
I'm pulling them up right now. I was thinking, because I said, let me get this guy's name. And that's why I had my phone out. It might be a little bit too bright. But I was thinking about you talking about Hunter Biden earlier in his tax. This reminds me of a guy named Timothy Geithner. Remember him from 2009? 2008?
He got $28 million for tax evasion and fraud. They let him plead out to 6 months and a $42,000 fine, if I'm not mistaken. Is
And
that
he was the
about right?
Secretary of the Treasury. Timothy
Yeah,
Geithner.
that was Obama's secretary. No, he wasn't at the time, but within 6 months he became Secretary of the Treasury.
Yeah.
How the hell does a Senate confirm somebody as Secretary of the Treasury, who will be the boss of IRS, who just got busted for $28 million in tax fraud, $42,000 fine, and a suspended sentence, which is very rare in the federal system? How does he even get nominated as Secretary of the Treasury?
And he was on the Federal Reserve.
And you see, he was also chief consultant to Goldman Sachs. So
Yes,
why
he
do we
was.
have the Obama administration have the president himself having been a representative of Goldman, with a law firm that represented Goldman Sachs, with his own personal trust fund that his stepdaddy left him investing heavily in Goldman Sachs? How do we have 2 U.S. Supreme Court justices who worked for Goldman Sachs nominated? How do we have our current Attorney General of the United States, who worked for Goldman Sachs, nominated for the Supreme Court unsuccessfully? And by the way, why is he nominating a Republican? That man's a lifetime Republican. It's the Attorney General for the Garland, and was also Obama's last nominee, who was not very friendly to black folk. He was on the Second Circuit, and on the Second Circuit, we had a lot of cases where it was a 2-1 decision on whether or not a wrong done to somebody who was inappropriately convicted was corrected. He was always and inevitably against that. The other thing is, why do we have so many chosen from the Second Circuit when we've got quite a few circuits around the nation? Why does everybody have to come from the Second Circuit? Head scratcher. Remember when she was scratching her head and I guess she was confused. She didn't know what a woman was. Second Circuit. And we got Geithner insisting on the nominee. So the 2 women that he put on there under the Obama thing, they were Second Circuit. So how about spreading it around to the rest of them like Trump did, so each part of the country gets representation instead of from that little strange enclave that you have
in D.C.
And by the way, D.C. does not need to be made a state. It is not a large city. So
No,
you have
no, they have a million
400,000
people.
people in a city, but it's supposed to get the same representation as a state. If you want the people in Washington, D.C. to have the opportunity to have voting representation in the House of Representatives and in the U.S. Senate, the solution's easy. You know what it is? Keep the Capitol Mall as the District of Columbia and take the rest of it and reseed it back to Maryland, so it will have Maryland congressmen and Maryland senators. And they can vote on those, and they will have a voice in the House and in the Senate. And that's the way it ought to be, not give them, for just 400,000 people, and that includes the children too, such as there may be, not giving that number the same voice as a whole state. See,
Well, I
Memphis
want to
is
say one thing
larger.
about that.
See, Memphis is larger than Washington, D.C. I'm running for mayor of Memphis. Why the hell not just make me governor of Memphis, Tennessee, and let Memphis, since it's considerably larger than Washington, D.C., why don't we get 2 senators in the U.S. Senate and 2 congressmen in the U.S. House?
Yeah.
See, it's absurd.
I'm going to say something about that, Judge, and I'm looking at it from this angle. I like what you said there, because I realized that they realized that Poland is not favoring them on stacking the Supreme Court. So now what they do, they're trying to force justices to recuse themselves off of cases so they still can get the numbers. They're trying a new game now. We can't stack the court.
But see, that's always been the case. That judges justices too are supposed to recuse themselves when there is a conflict of interest. You see, in law, whether you're a practitioner, a lawyer, or you're a judge or justice, you are supposed to avoid the appearance of impropriety, even if you're not actually doing anything wrong.
What about Kagan and Sotomayor?
Well, but it's more important to maintain the public faith and confidence in the judiciary and in the legal practitioners who are specialized in knowledge of the law, which keeps things working. It's not whether you are doing wrong. You have to avoid the appearance of doing wrong. So we have had things recently on both sides of the aisle, conservative and liberal, where, to me, they're questionable because somebody is not looking like they're neutral in the matter.
Well, with that being
And
said,
by the way, the Constitution does not fix the number of Supreme Court justices. That's up to Congress. They have had periods in the United States, in the history of the United States, where there were more than 9 justices on the U.S. Supreme Court. But they arrived at 9 justices because that's a workable number. And it accomplishes the thing, and it's an odd number, so you don't have the weird effect of having a draw where nothing gets decided because half are on one side and half are on the other.
Well, let me say this. Gotta bring on one topic. This is about you. So you running for mayor. You got your barbecue sauce. So I just want you to shout out everything. You know, I know you say you didn't have a long time tonight, so I want you to shout out everything you got.
Okay. It's service and sauce. If you want the service, it's JJB 2023 for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee. Send Brown downtown and take back your town. JJB in 2023. You know, it's a nice chant. And when you get me in so I can take the town back for you, or come up with a mecca in the United States where things will be fair and efficiently run, not like we have this clown show going on, agenda driven in so many of America's large cities, then you can chill and you can get yourself some sauce. So that's JJB BBQ, Judge Joe Brown, JJB Barbecue BBQ. It's good stuff. Most people who've tried it kind of like it. It's been winning some blind taste tests.
That's it right there, Judge, ain't it?
That's the surface, okay?
Where we at?
Now
What is
that's the
this? Is
website.
what is
And if you go to
BJB
the
2020? Yeah,
website,
it's the website.
you also have a cash app, $
I see it.
Judge Joe Brown 2023, and contribute. These things are expensive. My opponents are competing to see which big lobbying interests are going to give which one of them the most money. So I guess the way they're working it, forget the people, the selection gets done by the lobbyist, and the people can go drift away because, as I've said, Memphis is probably one of the most corrupt cities in America. But it doesn't have to be that way. But somebody needs to come in and clean house. And nobody seems to have the fortitude to do it. And that's why I accepted the call. Somebody I'd known for almost 50 years. She was the senior legislator in the state of Tennessee, the late Mrs. Dr. Barbara Cooper. She fell, 94 years old, and as a result of the fall, she got a blood clot. She died as a consequence of that. But she, a couple of years ago, actually 2.5, said, Joe, I want you to come back out of retirement. You have to save this place from sliding down the rabbit hole. And we went and started doing what we were doing. So we're getting a lot of good response from the people, white and black, brown, red, and yellow. And another project I'm on right now is I'm working with some of the OGs in the area to broker a peace out on the street so we don't have all this killing. We've effectively become one of the murder capitals of the United States, if not per capita, the murder capital of the country. We have a situation now where in the last 2 years and a month or so, there are almost 600 going on 80 going on 690 families that have lost loved ones to this insane violence out on the street. So we are working right now, even though I'm not in office, to get public peace. And that's what somebody needs. But most of the people down there against me, they kind of fit into that environment of a 5-star hotel with a bar attached, leather couches, and they're sitting there with a glass of Chablis and going, Jamal, what do you think about these horrible things I hear are going on down on 3rd Street? I don't know, Sean. What do you think? I mean, don't you think something needs to be done? I don't know what. Maybe we can appoint a committee. Yeah, and oh, by the way, if we do that, we need to significantly fund it because that will be right there where everybody can just dip, and nobody will pay the least bit of attention. That's the way they roll. That's not what the people need.
Let me pull this up, Jared, since I'm right here at it. I think it should come up. It's loading. So what the hell? Well, look, I don't know.
What the hell?
Hey, hold on. Shoot, it ain't come up. Can you hear me? Oh, wait a minute. I don't know what happened. Look, it's talking about man. Forget all that. Look, I ain't going through all that. Look. Whoa. You hear me? Yeah. Don't worry about that. That was me trying to put on your barbecue sauce, but it came on something about I'm not a robot or something crazy mess like that. But it's Judge Joe Brown barbecue sauce.
Somebody's messing with it because that's not required. It doesn't come up that way. So
I don't like getting all that.
Every now and then we have to send a specialist in to cleanse it.
Well, next time we go cleanse it, I might even do it on one of my other shows. Like I said, it's been 4 months. They had me unbanned. They kept on saying that you putting up misleading information, election fraud, and so forth, and like whatever they tried to do. But whatever, everything's coming to light.
Look. January 2021, the Justice Department released a report that said there were no significant inconsistencies in this election cycle. 2 days later, they put one up, said once again in Shelby County, that's where Memphis is, Tennessee, we had an election that was not legitimately conducted because the voting machines are still hacked hopelessly. And it's now 15 years ago, the Justice Department put up the money to replace all of these hacked machines. And the first election cycle since 2000 where it has not been hacked, according to the Justice Department, was when they used finally new machines that they had hired and acquired and let sit in a warehouse for almost 2 years, I guess, so they could figure out how to hack them for this November 2020 election cycle. So one department of the government on one day of the week is saying everything was cool, and 2 days later they were saying in the 14th largest city in the country it wasn't cool. So that's an inconsistency. It can't be cool everywhere, but in one particular place of significance is bad. So what is it? You know, that's double speak. That's what Orwell was talking about in 1984.
Well, let me say this to you. Well, I'm glad I was able to get you back on. I told you when I got back on, I was gonna get back on, and daggone everybody, you saw the thing. Send Brown downtown.
JJB 2023.
Brown
JJB
down.
2023. Yeah,
Send,
get
send,
the
and
chance
people
on.
in Memphis, send them downtown. I don't live in Memphis, but I live in Richmond. I actually judged today in Richmond, Virginia. They came out and said that some of the lowest math scores in the country. But I'll talk about that later. That's another time, another day.
Yeah, isn't it
But
a shame? Oh, by the way, one of the things I tend to do is sick the city attorney's office on the county board of education that now runs education for the city too for fraud. They failed to deliver on the compact to deliver.
There's a whole lot of people
They're
gonna have to have their curtains pulled.
Meanwhile, you got a problem with you can't even recruit cops for the police department. Now the stupid idiot whose nickname is Poppin' Fresh Doughboy, who's the current mayor, is trying to recruit cops from Memphis, Tennessee, from guess where?
Ukraine?
No, Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico? Yeah. I thought it might be Ukraine.
Yeah, they're American citizens. They could run for president, but it's got a Spanish language background and a totally different culture from what's apparent in what they call the tri-state area. Mississippi, Tennessee, Arkansas. Yep. One part of Memphis is across the river in Arkansas, and the other parts in Tennessee.
Mississippi the other way. And Mississippi the other way. Yep.
Yeah, and the thing of it is one side of the street is Memphis, Tennessee, and the other side is Horn Lake, Mississippi. Same street.
Walk across. And the other side is West. What is it? The other side is West Memphis, Arkansas.
Yeah, but you got to go across the Arkansas. You got to go across the Mississippi Bridge to get there. But so I mean, it's what it is, and we have the opportunity to use the river to generate electric power with modular generators that don't require concrete emplacements and no dams. And we could sell the surplus all up and down the river and start a new trend for using big rivers to provide green energy in the country, not displace the petroleum workers because there would be other employment for them. Ford Motor Company is going to hire 27,500 people in the next 3 years up here. Cadillac is moving in nearby to hire a similar number of people. This can be the Detroit of the 21st century if the people knew how to, the leadership, or such as calls itself that, figure out how to do things, but they don't because they're small, petty-minded, and they're all interested in what they're going to get under the table. So every now and then they have a sting and lock a lot of them up. Meanwhile, we can bring industry in with the power generated by the mighty Mississippi. And we can totally restructure the police department. So instead of having ineffective civilian oversight, it is in fact managed by, directed, and commanded by civilians, which is what you find with what? The U.S. Department of Defense, Secretary of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Secretary of Defense, subsecretaries, and all of that. We can duplicate that model instead of using that archaic Scotland Yard model that was set up by that English aristocrat, Sir Robert Peel, way back in the 1830s. So we can do better. We usually do when it compares to the Brits. So why keep that model? Other things, we've got a lot going here that we could turn around. We need to build up the infrastructure, stop letting these folks steal. People are talking about the Board of Education, is gone to hell, but it's got a $2.5 billion budget. And it's not going to provide education. For example, the county Board of Education has a board attorney, fully staffed with other lawyers, all of the necessities to do at least routine, if not more difficult, legal work. But yet, the board hires a private concern to duplicate what they do for $500 to $1,500 an hour for in-office work. Why is that? You had all of these experienced teachers 10 years ago with master's degrees, PhDs, winning all of these awards and 20, 25, 30 years of teaching experience, and you fired all of them and you replaced them with people that don't even need a 4-year degree to be a teacher, just 2 years, through a private profit-making concern affiliated with Teach America. And guess what? They start at $28,000 to $32,000 a year with no benefits. That isn't even poverty. That isn't even poverty wage level. So what in the world are they trying to do, and where is the money going? Well, we got a very nice sister who is on the Board of Education. She just resigned. And she said, I can no longer work here with this corruption. This is just general ignorance and incompetence. What's going on here? All of this illicit, illegal, inappropriate, I'll call the word out, theft is going on here. And the audits are backing up what she's saying. And she's identifying the same things I have. So somebody had the decency to say, I'm bailing. I'm not becoming remaining part of this. I'm going to expose it too. So we've got all kinds of problems going on. We have people from prominent political families, black, got raided by the FBI on a search warrant, 6 o'clock in the morning. And the papers are saying that's because they broke some of the state ethical rules. Well, the FBI does not deal with state offenses. So if the FBI is serving a search warrant, it's got nothing to do with the state level ethics considerations, which are considerable because the individual, according to the allegations, is this: as a county commissioner introducing legislation to give a $450,000 contract to a private concern. And guess what? At the same time you introduce this legislation, you get paid a $45,000 consultancy fee. Now, why is the legislator getting paid a consultation fee by the same entity that he is getting a contract for? See, that raises all kinds of hackles and like, oh, what's going on here? So it's about to hit the fan. And it's time we cleaned house, because this ought to be the gateway to the South. And Europe is trying to get ocean going traffic directly to the distribution point of North America without having to go through the East Coast. You can send it up the river, the Mississippi, through New Orleans. We've got 220-foot deep channels out here going under the bridge. So we can bring in barges loaded up in Europe, bring them in here, get them right to the distribution center of America, And by the way, our airport doesn't look like much, but it has the largest commercial tonnage shipped out of it in the whole world. Hong Kong is in second place with about half the commercial tonnage that's shipped out of Memphis. FedEx is here, UPS is here, the Postal Service Bulk Mail Center, everybody that's got heavy bulk distribution operates out of Memphis. So you can take these cars made by Ford and Cadillac, ship them back in through the Mediterranean to Europe, or keep going through the Mediterranean through the Suez Canal. You get into Asia, and then you can load up in Asia, come back the other way, and instead of going across the Pacific, you can save almost 9,000 miles on the trip, getting directly to the distribution point where it's going to wind up anyway, whether or not you bring it in through Los Angeles in their Long Beach Harbor. So it's a big game that should not be played at the people's expense. And there's a lot that can be developed, but these clowns are all thinking about, what can I get? I want to get rich. It's crazy.
Well, Judge,
but that's what I'm trying to deal with.
I'm glad you
analyzed it.
I'm glad you called out the corruption, and that's very good. And we're gonna do more of a show on Teach for America.
Now, I'm fair. You saw what I did for 15 years on the show, but I will put somebody's ass off in jail if necessary.
Well, hey, look, well, more people need to probably be there with the crazy stuff they're doing. But, hey, by the way, shout out to you got a show on Friday. Go ahead and shout it out for
Okay, let me do that. You can give me two places, Monday evening and Twitter Space and Thursday with the real Dana. She likes to squabble, but Dana's nice at heart. And then on Friday, there is Miss Valerie Denise Jones. And we do this collaboration. It's 4:00 Eastern Standard Time to about 6. And if you're already on, then we go into what she calls the Hunger Games, where all lines are open and everybody's supposed to be polite, but it gets to be a good mix. And you can get to that. The number is 929-477-1167. 929-477-1167. Dial in and you can listen. And if you want to participate, press 1. It won't tell you that, but that's the secret. Hit that 1. And get in.
But all right. Well, like I said, I appreciate you for coming back. I said I'll get you back. I'm gonna try to get you back on maybe next week or a week after. We got some things that we got to get on, but keep it up and keep doing members. We're gonna talk more about it. Maybe we get together. I think you turned 76 on like the 5th or something like that.
Oh, you got me. I don't call it a birthday. I call it an anniversary. I call it, let's see, what is it this time?
I'll be 36 on the 16th. So
it is the 55th anniversary of my 21st birthday. Let's put it that way. You want something to happen, otherwise you're behind dead. So, but the birthdays, they get to coming real fast. It's funny. The older you get, the faster the birthday comes. It's like a roll of toilet paper. The quicker you get, the closer you get to the end, the faster it runs out.
Yeah, well, I mean, I turned 36 on 16th, so, but you're right, time is flying. But like I said, take your time. Keep on the mission and do what you got to do with people in Memphis. I'm out of here, and you take your time and keep on doing what you're doing.
Away. Yeah, we go. JJB 2023. JJB in 2023. Send Brian down and take back a town. Now I'm out of here. Thank you, young man.
Yes, sir. Take your time.